Hi there. Welcome. It's John Fanistil from Via International, here with the rest of the Via International team and friends and supporters from near and far who are joining us today as we launch our new virtual cafe, the Via Cafe. I'm excited to get to share this new offering with you. It's a way that we're hoping will allow more people to experience the culture and mission of Via International. Via International is a history with a long organization here in the San Diego-Tijuana borderlands, promoting sustainable community development and connecting people across borders in solidarity. And we're so glad that you're here with us today as we pilot this new venture. So thanks so much for joining us. We're a large group today, about 80 or so registered, and so we'll have people continuing to trickle in. When you were admitted to this meeting, you may have discovered that you're on mute. I am going to leave the bulk of the participants muted for now. And what we'd invite you to do, if you want to ask questions or share a thought, if you'd use the chat function, which you'll find for most of you, I think, on your Zoom platform, your Zoom screen, it'll be down at the bottom. There's a little chat icon, and if you click on that, it'll open the chat box for you. And I encourage you to chat away there. We've got several people on the call who will be attending to the chat box. And that's also the way that later in the program today, if you'd like to ask questions, we'd appreciate your typing your question out in that chat box. And then we'll lift those questions up, as many questions as time allows. We'll lift those questions up. So that'll be how we'll invite you to share questions. And we'll get to questions and answers toward the end of our time. I have in mind that we'll just spend about 45, maybe 50 minutes together. So again, so much appreciate your being here. I do want to just emphasize that this is really a response of Via International. It's an attempt by Via International to respond to the extreme circumstances in which we find ourselves, and also to make our purpose, our mission, our work more accessible to a wider range of people. So it really emerged, this idea of a virtual cafe. It really emerged out of conversations with Elisa Sabatini, the president and CEO of VIA, and the rest of the VIA staff who are here with us today: Rigoberto Reyes, Aida Amador, Joanna Salazar-Harris, Gabriel Reed, I think, is joining us as well. So the VIA staff has been, as all nonprofit staffs, have been in intensive conversation about how to respond to this peculiar moment. And the basic question, of course, is how can we fulfill our mission? Promoting sustainable community development in places south of the border especially, and then connecting people in solidarity across borders. Historically, VIA has done that by travel programs, which of course are not to be had right now. What we came up with was a number of answers, 4 answers in fact. How can we fulfill our mission in this time? We talked about resourcing the migrant community in Tijuana. And really applying the expertise that's been developed across so many years in community development to that emerging population of migrants, and especially migrants and deportees in Tijuana. We also wanted to take advantage of the experience that both I and our good friend Dan Wattman have had in teaching Spanish and making Spanish language lessons available. Not just formal lessons, but also the opportunity to practice Spanish for those who are working on their Spanish language skills. And then we wanted to lift up voices from the borderlands and beyond, but to lift up the kinds of voices that somebody might experience were they to be able to go on a travel program. Instead, we wanted to bring those voices to you through the digital landscape. And finally, we thought it would be nice to support microcredit work, which is a longstanding passion of many at Via International. And one way we thought to do that was by selling coffee that was produced by microcredit collaboratives, and especially women-led collaboratives in Mexico and Central America. So it was out of those kinds of conversations that the vision of a virtual cafe was born. And what I'm going to do today is just walk you through very quickly with my colleagues a little bit of the kind of shape of the offerings that you'll find on the Via Cafe website. And then we'll take a tour. I'll share the screen and take a quick tour of the Via Cafe website. My hope is that at the end of the program, you'll have enjoyed it and found yourself compelled by what we're doing. And my real hope is that you'll turn into a champion of the Via Cafe, that you'll not only go online and make a purchase yourself at the cafe, supporting good work along and across the border, but that you'll also really become a champion and share this with your friends. So that's my objective here today, is to get you excited about the cafe so that you'll tell your friends and share this resource with others. All right, so what I'm going to begin with is a quick run through some of the offerings, the kinds of people that you'd meet if you were to go to the Via Cafe. The Via Cafe we're envisioning as a place for people connecting across borders. And so we want to introduce you to some of the kinds of people that you might meet if you were to visit the cafe, and to hear a little bit more about them. So I'm going to share my screen and share a quick PowerPoint presentation. And then I'm going to ask, we'll begin with Elisa Sabatini, Rigo Reyes, and Aida Amador. We're going to share a little bit about the program we're calling Via Migrante, our work with migrant communities in Tijuana, and especially with small businesses who are supporting those migrant communities. And I think Rigo is going to start, and then you'll also hear from Elisa and Aida, and then we'll carry on. So here comes a quick PowerPoint, and I'll start the slideshow now. And Rigo. There's the Via Cafe homepage, and Via Migrante is one of the offerings that you would find there. Rigo, do you want to share a word?
Sure. I'm not sure if people could hear me.
Yes, we're
okay, great. Well, first of all, thank you, John, for arranging this possibility of knowing all these folks here. My name is Rigo Reyes. I've been with the organization for about 36 years. What you have here in front of you is Norma Campos, who along with her husband, Salvador, we call him Chava, have been developing this small little business in their own community. It's more like a catering business. It's known as Los Elotitos, or the Little Corns. And they belong to a group known as Buena Vista. They've been part of this microcredit program for over 8 years. The program itself has about a 14-year history of microcredit here at the border, specifically in Tijuana and Mexicali. And I think here at this particular point, Norma is preparing dishes for supporting one of the shelters in Tijuana. I believe it's Juventud 2000. And I think Elisa is going to be talking a little bit more about that.
This is one of the distributions. I'm Elisa Sabatini, the president of Via International. This is one of the distribution sites. As Rigo mentioned, it's the Juventud 2000 shelter. There's 75 families, or 75 people, multiple families. You can see here in the slide the tents in the background. Each family, individual family, has a tent. And Norma has graciously been making for the last 4 weeks now meals that are distributed on Fridays, very special meals, 3-course meal with dessert and drinks, and to the families living in these shelters. And currently they're quite cloistered in the shelters and without a lot of possibility of going out. So we're very excited to do this and anticipate doing this throughout the balance of the summer. I'm pleased to let you know about one of the other offerings we have from our microcredit Via Migrante with the words of Aida Amador.
Hi, everybody. I'm Aida. I've been with the organization for 2 years, and I'm presenting you with Arcelia Solano. She's one of the microcredit participants and has been for 10 years. She sells eco-friendly supplies from her mobile office, which is her car, and she's been doing it for over 20 years. She, like Norma, is one of the participants of the Buena Vista group, microcredit Buena Vista group, and she's part of the Via Migrante program that helps provide cleaning supplies to the shelters in Tijuana. So if you want to help out, if you go to Via Cafe, you'll see an icon and just push, and you can help out to buy cleaning supplies for the shelters in Tijuana.
Thank you, Aida. I'm now going to turn to my friends Dan Watman and Robert Vivar to share a little bit about the Escuela Amistad, the language learning program that we're offering. And there are a couple of different expressions of that. Dan, who's taught Spanish for many years, is going to lead off with an invitation to join his beginning class, which starts next Monday. Dan, do you want to say a word about the Escuela Amistad?
Sure. Hola. Buenos dias. Yeah, we'll be starting a Spanish 101 class, a beginner class, on next Monday. May 25th. And it's part of this program, Escuela Amistad, which is our kind of slogan is learning languages through making friends. So that will be kind of the idea. We'll start out with the first 2 weeks learning how to express who you are and what you're about and how to ask other people the same. And then the last week, the third week, we'll actually have visitors. And I'm really excited about this kind of unique format. I feel like it's kind of like almost like teleportation or something, because you can talk to anybody anywhere around the world at any time. And so we'll take advantage of that format and have visitors, Spanish-speaking visitors. So we'll be able to realize that idea of people getting to know each other across cultural barriers. And so yeah, and I just wanted to mention one recent student that I've had. Her name is Adriana, and she is a lawyer in El Centro, and she contacted me a couple weeks ago, wanted to do some private lessons, and we've worked on her pronunciation. She's got her confidence up, and she has been talking to her clients more and as getting to know her clients more, which is kind of the backbone of being a good lawyer, is getting to know your clients well. And so it's a kind of a perfect example model for what we're looking to do, which is practicing your Spanish through getting to know people. So I look forward to seeing anybody that wants to take the class. Please spread the word. This class is also connected to our Charla Amigos program, which follows the same philosophy of people getting to know each other, learning language through making friends. And I believe my friend Robert Vivar, who's coordinating the Charla Amigos effort, is going to talk a little bit about that.
Great, gracias, Dan, and the VIA team. Bienvenidos. We're very excited about this project, Charla Amigos, because it pairs up our friends on the U.S. side with our community out here in Mexico, in particular, our deported community and our migrant community. And it's very important to us because it gives our friends in the U.S. side that want to practice their Spanish, that want to polish up their Spanish, the opportunity to engage in a full hour conversation at a time, where they can really get that practice that they need. And what's very important to us is that it's not only the practicing that they will receive from this program, but also the type of connection that is made to our community here in Mexico. And it also gives the opportunity for the student in the U.S. To receive firsthand information as to what is going on here in the border. As you can see, we have different Charla Amigos that are in the project, whether you are very fluent in Spanish and can be paired up to a person that can actually help you practice your Spanish completely, to somebody that perhaps is not quite as fluent. We also have Charla Amigos that will be able to assist you through that process. And as you can see, we have several of our friends that are here included that are either deported or part of our migrant community. So we welcome you to participate in the program. One of the success stories that we like to mention is in this particular picture, which is with one of our friends from the U.S., Holly Webb. She's an immigration attorney, and she is the attorney for one of our friends, an asylum seeker, and also a Charla Amiga. What has been very important about this picture is that Holly, of course, has now been able to practice her Spanish when she does her sessions with her client, who is Liz, one of our Charla Amigas, and also with Tanya, who is another one of our Charla Amigas, one of our mothers here in Mexico, with an exiled daughter back in the United States. So it gives us an opportunity to extend those friendship ties, and at the same time to give us an opportunity for our friends in the US to polish up on their Spanish as we continue to keep up on the events surrounding us here at the border. We look forward to assisting you. We welcome you. Have a great day.
Thanks, Robert. Thanks. And Lisa Sabatini is going to share about the coffee partnerships we're striking up. And we'll be selling what we're calling Beyond Borders coffee through the Cafe Via website.
Yes, I hope you'll all sign on and buy a few bags. Our Beyond Borders coffee, the idea originated with our dear friend Karen Sobreros, who has been working with me to develop the microcredit program through some Rotary connections and a group, Mujeres para Mujeres, in the Rosarito area. Karen has her own cafe just opening this May, the Nova Vida Cafe at kilometer 41 in down the coast here in the Rosarito area. But she has been a champion of our work and has made the connections for us to be able to offer coffees from Mexico and Guatemala. So I hope you'll take a look at those offerings and sign up for those.
Thanks, Elisa. And so the fourth offering is our Via Voices program, where we'll be bringing voices from the border and from across borders to the Tuesday 12 noon interview format. It will be kind of a charla in the Spanish language style of a charla, a conversation, where I or Elisa or Rigo will be interviewing somebody who has impressed us for their work along and across borders. Here's a picture of our own Rigoberto Reyes on the cover. I wanted to just share with you, though, that our first experience, which will be next Tuesday, 1 week from today, our first interview will be with Dr. Andres Smith, who is the director of the emergency department at Sharp Chula Vista, and is also the president of the Cruz Roja in Tijuana. The Cruz Roja in Tijuana is the ambulance service in Tijuana. And Dr. Smith is remarkably well informed to bring an update on the spread of the coronavirus in South County, San Diego, and in Tijuana, and the interplay on the two sides of the border. So next Tuesday at 12 noon will be a fascinating conversation about how the shape of the virus is being, how the spread of the virus is being shaped by the border and by those border flows with which we're also familiar. And just a preview that coming in June, Molly, a longtime staff person from Via International who lives in Mexico City and is a new mom, will be reporting out on life and motherhood in Mexico City. Our friend Dr. Alberto Pulido from University of San Diego will be talking about educación in the borderlands. And then Graciela Zamudio from Alma Migrante will be talking about human rights work in Tijuana. So there will be an opportunity each week, Tuesday at noon, to hear a voice from the borderlands. So I next want to give you a whirlwind tour of the website itself. I just want to check in to see, were there any pressing questions before we move on with that? Or are we ready to take a quick tour? Let's do it. All right. So I'll share my screen. And here we go. So here's the home page. Again, the theme is people connecting across borders. And when you get to that home page, you'll just find yourself scrolling down, whether you're on the laptop or your cell phone. And again, the vision is that the cafe would be a place for you to connect with people across the US-Mexico border, and that you'll also be able to make a simple purchase or two, knowing that every purchase will directly support people who are helping others help themselves here in the borderlands, and especially in Tijuana, Mexico. Here's that lineup of Via Voices that I mentioned just a few moments ago. Our lead lecture next Tuesday, our lead conversation and interview next Tuesday with Dr. Andres Smith. If you'd like to underwrite the honorarium for one of our speakers, we'll be offering each speaker an honorarium of $100. And so there's a nice way to support somebody who's doing important work in Tijuana. Or if you'd like to just sponsor the program at $25 or the $10 level. But we really want those events to be free. So the ticket to the next event will always be free. And you can sign up any week. Just put that in your shopping cart, and when you check out, you'll get a notification about the Zoom link to sign up for that next lecture, or to sign in for that next lecture. Here's the Escuela Amistad information. Dan mentioned the Spanish 101 class that he's starting next Monday. I'll be following up after Dan's 3-week class with a 3-week class that I'll be teaching at the 201 level. And then Dan will be following up right after that with a class at the 301 level. So there are 3-week classes back to back, and there may be some who would be interested to turn it into a kind of a 9-week intensive. I do just want to emphasize this Charla Amigo opportunity for those of you who already speak some Spanish but are looking for a chance to practice, to improve, and also to get to know somebody. As Dan mentioned, and Robert, the philosophy of the Escuela Amistad is that it's really through getting to know people that we learn to speak a language. And there is, you'll be able to choose from a roster of Charla Amigos, and then you'd add a 30-minute session to your shopping cart. And then Robert and Dan, who are the coordinators of the program, would check in with you and match you up with a Charla Amigo to get started. You can try it out for 30 minutes and then renew and continue a conversation with that person, or you can sign up for a conversation with somebody else. Just a note that on this Charla Amigo page, there is a list of our, not just the coordinators, Dan and Robert, but here's a listing of some of our Charla Amigos. Several have been mentioned already, but let me just bring this one to your attention. Because we actually had a little bit of a trial run. A friend of ours wanted to give it a try, and so she got together, our friend Jennifer, with Yessi, who in fact is really functioning as the manager of that Juventud 2000 shelter in Tijuana. And our friend Jennifer, who lives here in San Diego, had a wonderful hour-long conversation with Yessi. And then Jennifer reported back that, oh, she has a lot of work to do. She was having to ask Yessi to repeat herself a lot, which we've taken as a good sign that Yessi was stretching Jennifer's language learning. So just wanted you to be aware that you can check out the individuals and learn more about them. Again, leaders and members of our migrant and deportee community here in Tijuana. If you continue to scroll down on the homepage, you'll get to the coffee offerings. And before that, to the Via Migrante. Again, here's Norma and Arcelia. And again, as Aida and Enrico and Elisa explained, by supporting these efforts, you're really helping a small business keep itself moving through this terrible time when otherwise their small business enterprise would be in great jeopardy, as well as then delivering needed supplies and needed foods to the shelters in Tijuana. So we like to think it's a 2-for-1, where your donation is really helping a small business in Tijuana sustain themselves, keep up with their micro loan, and then bring much needed assistance to the shelters in Tijuana. And then the coffee offerings, as Elisa mentioned, thanks again to our collaborators, our partners in Rosarito, Mexico, and also Daymar Coffee, the distributor out of El Cajon here in San Diego, which is where the coffee will be shipped from. And there's a couple of different offerings, both Mexican and Guatemalan, in a 12-ounce bag and also in a 5-pound bag, if you're looking for a little bit more of a bulk supply. So that's a whirlwind tour. Just one note that under each section, there is a little button that says read more. And if you want to go to that read more button, you'll be able to find out more about the respective programs, a little bit more about the coming offerings or what the latest is. And that's a way to not just make a purchase, but also learn a little bit more about the people who are behind these various undertakings. Again, here's a detailed, under the Escuela Amistad, a detailed description of the Escuela Amistad, the classes coming up, the philosophy behind the class, and why Dan and I enjoy teaching in this style so much, where the whole purpose of teaching Spanish language is to get people to connect with others and to become lifelong. I think of myself as a lifelong learner of the Spanish language, and in my experience, that's the way language learning works. You're always being stretched, and especially if you're in touch with native speakers. So there's a whirlwind tour. I'm going to go ahead and stop it there and just check in to see if there are questions from the participants. Anybody who'd like to type in a question, or Joanna and Aida, whether you've seen anything come in over the chat that you'd like to have answered by somebody.
Well, there is one very quick question that says, what does Charla Amiga translate to?
Yeah, Robert or Dan, what's a Charla Amigo?
Sure. Charla Amigo is something similar to a pen pal, but instead of, writing, it's through an actual conversation. Charla means chat, amigo, of course, friend. So it's a chat friend is what it kind of translates to. It's a word that we feel really comfortable with because in Spanish, it gives a feeling of closeness. It makes you feel like the two persons are great friends. And that's the whole idea, that through this project, that we continue to stretch that friendship between our two countries, our two great communities.
Thank you. Thank you. Other questions?
There is another question about whether first language English speakers can also help Spanish speakers learn to speak English. Can it go the other direction?
Yeah, Dan, do you want to say, I know Dan has done a lot of language exchanges and language learning in a lot of different directions across the years. Dan, what's your sense of that?
I think that that's possible. I think that we're starting now with a kind of a benefit to the people in Tijuana. So they're offering to help you with your Spanish in exchange for a small stipend. And some of the Charla Amigos in Tijuana that I've spoken with actually mentioned that to me, that they want to practice their English. So in some of the bios, that is mentioned that this person wants to practice their English. So that's always a possibility if someone wants to set something up separately to do like an exchange. And like John said, I've facilitated exchanges. There's not much for the facilitator to do, but I can give some tips as to how to structure a language exchange, English-Spanish.
Yeah, and so part of this will be the matchmaking role that Dan and Robert will play, and that, if you describe your interests and what you'd like to offer through this experience, then they'll do their best to find somebody, one of our Charla Amigos, and that roster may grow over time so that we can have different kinds of relationships build up based on interests and language capabilities and so forth. What else?
John, Andre Rocha posted a really interesting comment about the opportunity for bilingual community organizers to talk about cross-border organizing, sustainable development, community development, alternatives, and food justice and food security. I wonder if you might want to speak to the potential to expand these programs to include more topics.
Yeah, thank you for that. Thank you. Yes, very much. Here's one vision that I want to share with everybody, and this will get in the direction of the question that Andrea has asked. Is my real hope is that someday, very soon, I'm hoping very soon, that we'd be able to staff the cafe maybe 4 hours a day, say in the morning. Imagine from 7 a.m. to 11 a.m. Monday through Friday or something like that. The cafe will be open 24/7 as far as a website goes, but we would call it hosted from 7 a.m. to 11 a.m. So imagine that 7 a.m. to 11 a.m. the Via Cafe was open for business, and that there was a host, be one of our friends, bilingual, well prepared to host conversations of many different kinds. There might be a dedicated Zoom meeting room like this one that would be the Via Cafe meeting room that would be available to book, if you will, where our host, our staff person, would be the manager of the room, but people could book conversations, perhaps something like the ones that you're asking about, Andrea. So if we can find some audience here and build it up, my real hope is that the Via Cafe would turn into that kind of virtual meeting space where all kinds of different conversations would emerge, a little bit of that incubator, kind of co-working kind of vibe. Andrea and I have talked about co-working for years, so I know part of what she's thinking about. But then the other option, of course, would be that ideas would emerge from these conversations that might work their way into the cafe offerings or the cafe program per se. We had talked about a bulletin board, which would be more a free-for-all, but that gets into all kinds of issues of moderation, and you really have to be careful with that kind of wide open kind of forum. But a curated conversation by somebody who hosts the Via Cafe would be fantastic. So something to look forward to. We hope to be able to do that soon. And of course, we'd announce it far and wide. And I don't know if that person would be a barista or a host or a convener or what, but we're very much hoping that Via Cafe will become a place. They'd be available to answer chats, to answer the phone, as well as to curate conversations in a Zoom meeting room like this. So thanks for that. Thanks for thinking in that direction. Other questions?
They're asking if the cafe is delivery only or pickup.
Well, it's a great question because delivery is very much on our minds. Conversation, in fact, just met the other day with both Karen, who runs her distributorship out of Rosarito, and with the fellow who runs his coffee warehouse project in El Cajon. Elisa, what's your sense of the delivery as we're just going to have yet to ship our first bag of coffee? So this is top shelf of our thinking.
I think that we could potentially have some inventory available at our offices that could then be made available for pickup. At this current situation that we are setting up with the distributor is that he will be helping us with the shipments. We'll have to consider if we get a lot of demand to have some inventory on hand. So that's a great question. And of course it saves us the shipping costs. So it's more of a contribution to the organization.
Yeah, and the price on the bags is $18 for a 12-ounce bag of Mexican coffee, $20 for a bag of Guatemalan coffee, 12-ounce. We know that's not cheap, of course, but that's part of the supporting the work of the different organizations involved all along the distribution chain. But yeah, if we had a stash, we hadn't thought of that, I think, because we haven't been able to go to our office for all these weeks. We've all been working from home for so long. But it makes sense that if assuming we open up back our office in Barrio Logan, that we'd be able to then, sell coffee out the door. We'll have to see how that goes. Other questions? I'd also welcome comments. I'm going to open it up if there are no more questions out of the chat room. Is there anybody who would like to just surface a thought or a comment, a question, an idea?
Hi, John.
Hi, Lottie.
I'm sorry I was late. I didn't get a chance to see my emails until 10 minutes ago, so I hadn't seen this invitation. I missed everything you guys have talked about, but I'm wondering if everybody on the cafe is just on the US side.
No.
On the Mexican side join?
Yeah, so Laudy, yeah, you'll have to see this. We just did a 20-minute presentation introducing all the people, most of whom are in Tijuana, who will be active in the cafe. So yeah, there's a whole series of offerings and engagements and opportunities based in the work is rooted in Tijuana, as you'll see when you check, or just go to viacafe.org and browse that homepage. You'll see the people who are involved. That said, I also hear another question in the midst or between the lines. Right now the website is in English, and our presumption is that the majority of customers, if you will be English speakers. And our presumption for now is that the majority of those will be based in the United States. So a big part of the cafe's origin, as I mentioned at the beginning, Via's historic work is supporting community development work at places south of the border, Tijuana, Mexicali, and places further south. And one of the ways that Via has historically done that is by bringing groups and trips from North America, especially colleges and universities. And with those groups and trips, of course, comes resources. So a fundamental preoccupation of ours as we gave shape to this cafe was continuing that longstanding tradition of resourcing communities, bringing and including financial resources. So every purchase at the cafe is actually moving money into Mexico and resourcing the communities, for which Via has had its historic concern. So it is, for the moment, it's an English language website, and presuming that the majority of customers, at least at the start, would be US-based English-speaking people. We'll see how much that dynamic of a gathering space and a back and forth space and a curated conversation, if we can really get that going, then, vamos en los dos idiomas, por supuesto. So wish us well as we try to create a more bilingual environment over time. Dan, you had a thought about that?
Just a quick thought that that's completely what I'm thinking as well, although here in Tijuana, there are quite a few expats, and actually one of the students signed up for the class already is lives here in Tijuana and wants to practice his Spanish. So so it is open to people on both sides of the border. We can have clients on either side.
Thanks for that. Yeah, I think the last number I heard was 350,000 U.S. citizens living in Baja California. Many of those, of course, are U.S. citizens of Mexican ancestry. But then you have also the expat community, or the gringo community. So yeah, hopefully a meeting place. If over time we can create a true meeting place, that would be a wonderful, wonderful outcome.
John, could
Yeah,
you
please.
speak to the signing up for the Via Voices? So someone would go online. Can you walk us through that a little?
Yeah, thanks. Let's do that. Let me give you a little bit more of a granular walkthrough. So the platform, which perhaps you're familiar with, some of you, is Shopify. And it's aimed at as a commercial kind of platform. So on the home page, as you scroll through, each of these items that you'll see here, every square is in fact an item for purchase. Now the ticket to the next event happens to be a free item, but if you click on it, and then you'll be able to add that ticket to your cart, just like you would if you were shopping on any other website. I can then go to view my cart and see the items that are in there. Oh, I'd forgotten about this. I had looked at a 5-pound bag of Guatemalan coffee. So that must have been before I had my morning coffee and I had coffee on the brain. But I can remove items just like in any shopping cart, or I can continue shopping and so forth. Or I could go to checkout. So anyway, you can fill your shopping cart by browsing through the items, and those items can be found on the home page where I'm scrolling now. So I could add a Spanish class or a 30-minute conversation with a Charla amigo. I could send some meals to the shelter in Tijuana. In fact, this item, if you wanted to send more than a few meals, you could add that to your cart. And then when you view the cart, you'd be able to increase the number of meals, right? I could order 2 instead of just 1. So that shopping cart will continually update. And then when I'm ready, I can check out. And when I check out, it'll take me to a payment page. Again, this will be familiar to you if you've ordered anything online. So the idea is that it is in that respect, it's a shopping experience. But again, every item involves supporting people who are working on the ground, principally in Tijuana, and supporting the ongoing work of Via International and other community-based organizations. Other questions about the website itself? I think I mentioned earlier that to each section there's a page, an information page. So if you wanted to learn more about the Via Migrante program, for instance, you just scroll down to Via Migrante and check read more. And again, on that page, you can hear a little bit more about the Via Migrante program and then select the item if you want to put it in your shopping cart. Also at the bottom of that page, by the way, there is a reference to the larger vision. We do envision that this engagement with the shelters in Tijuana is a response to the current crisis, of course, but that our larger vision is resourcing the migrant and deportee community in Tijuana with a more sustainable, sustainable plan of community development. So if you're interested to learn more about that, I know Lisa, Rigo, Aida, any of us would be glad to tell you more. In that respect, what you find here on the cafe site is just the first steps of a larger Via Migrante program. Any other questions about the website while I have it up?
I just want to say that this conversation or this video is going to be available on Facebook and on YouTube, so everybody that was late can see all the information that everybody at VIA provided.
Yes, thank you. And what I'd really like to ask of each of you, if I may, before we go, I really would hope that you would join us in spreading the word about this new adventure of Via International. And there are 3 ways that you can do that. First, we'd love for you to come back right away next week, Tuesday at noon, to join this conversation with Dr. Andres Smith about the spread of the coronavirus here along and across the border. So if you go to viacafe.org, and that very first button would be the free ticket, or you could sponsor it if you want at $10, $25. But join us next Tuesday and invite your friends as we try to build up a community of following, especially around this Via Voices weekly conversation piece. If you'd like to make a purchase, we encourage you to do that, to check out and make a purchase somewhere along the lines. Feel free to email questions about the Spanish language opportunities. Dan is looking to start his class next Monday. So if you know somebody who seems serious about wanting to start learning Spanish, this is a great way to get in on the ground floor. Or if you yourself want to, been saying all these years you've been wanting to try Spanish, well, here's a great opportunity to do so with friends and to get connected to people across the border. And then lastly, we'd love for you to help spread the word through social media. So you could go to the Via Cafe page on Facebook if you're a Facebook user, or the Via International page on Facebook, and just use that to stir the pot, spread the word, and invite your friends to engage in this way that we like to think is an honest reflection of Via International's historic mission, but also equipped for these times when we're living our lives virtually. We're optimistic that this will sustain itself long beyond the period of the coronavirus. One of the nice things about meeting virtually is you can connect with people from near and far, as Robert mentioned. And I did a Spanish class, a 3-week Spanish class just last month, and we had people from all over the country. It's a wonderful experience. So I appreciate your spreading the word. And if you have other ideas to share about improving the offerings, getting that, trying to raise about $6,000 would get us off the ground in terms of hosting the cafe. So if you'd like to help in that regard, please just reach out to me. I'm glad to tell you more about how we're planning to do that. And that's kind of where we're standing.
So John, that you actually just kind of touched on it very briefly, but there was an interesting question by David Mong asking, how do you see the project transitioning from virtual to actual when we come out of this? Yeah.
Well, so each of the programs have a logical, real life face-to-face expression. As I mentioned, the Via Migrante delivery of meals and cleaning supplies through the microcredit cooperatives, that's an emergency response, but the microcredit offerings for migrant populations and deportee populations in Tijuana is part of that larger stream of work, that the larger Via Migrante program that we're talking about. And if you'd like to learn more about that, Elisa but Elisa has drafted a wonderful vision for that larger program. And so that we very much and hope will turn into a stream of work across many years, where we take some of the lessons that Via has learned across its years, decades of working, sustainable community development, and trying to apply those lessons to the new populations in Tijuana. The Escuela Amistad, Dan and I have taught Spanish both across many years, Dan more so than I, but I've done it many times. And it's always, of course, we've always taught, this is the first time that I've ever taught in this environment. And I know a lot of Dan's classes have involved trips to Friendship Park and to the Binational Garden. And so clearly, if the Spanish language school finds an audience, we'll continue with those classes, and we'll probably mix the methods, do a hybrid thing where you do some learning online, but then also, get out and, get to go down to Tijuana and meet the person, the Charla amigo that you've been chatting with online, for instance. The Via Voices, we'll see how that goes. If what I was struck by with my Spanish class was how many people were excited to join from far afield. You host a Charla in your office in Barrio Logan, and somebody who lives in Wisconsin can't come. So I'm hopeful that the Via Voices program might find a virtual audience that would be nationwide or much more dispersed. And if it does, we'll sustain it, I would think, in that virtual platform. Those are some of the ways. It's easy for me to imagine that this would become a supplement or a complement to the face-to-face and real-world work that we're doing. Thanks for that question.
So John, there actually are a lot of really interesting ideas that people have come up with that are, chatting, they wish it could do this. It would be great if it could do that. Are we going to sell coffee cups? There's a lot of, I like that everyone's thinking more broadly about how this can be applied. And maybe you want to speak to your hopes as, how this can grow. Yeah. Whether it's on, even if the coronavirus, calms down and we can come offline, how we can continue to promote this cross-border, conversation among various groups. Yeah, thanks for that. Again, we've been at VIA, and glad for others from the team to speak to this as well, but VIA's always had a twofold kind of expression of its missions, community development and connecting people. So the historic language at VIA was paths to self-reliance of that community development.
And speaking of an interdependent world, talking about our relationships across borders, more in the last couple of weeks, we've been talking about, that promoting sustainable community development, that first expression, and then connecting people across borders in solidarity as the other dimension. So that's the kind of the twofold work of VIA, and we hope the cafe will be, as I said, a supplement to that, and allow more people to participate in that who maybe aren't, previously already engaged with VIA. If I looked into, again, I checked out the idea of bulletin boards and community spaces and the kind of the more open, free-for-all, kind of public forum. I'll be frank, it requires a ton of moderation. It requires really somebody dedicated almost full time to curating. If you have a live community board or comment board, in this day and age, you have to, both for security reasons and also just in terms of moderation, you have to be tremendously vigilant and staffing that, So that's why we're interested in the idea of maybe opening just 4 hours on mornings to begin. And I don't know how many of you, I know we're all getting sick of Zoom, but it does have real capabilities, including the capacity to break people out into rooms. So it's easy to imagine that at the VIA Cafe, there might be several conversations going on at once with, with people gathered in different rooms within the Zoom platform. So I think it could go in a lot of different directions. A lot of it will depend on audience. Do we find an audience, and are there people who are wanting to engage in a more ongoing way?
Yeah, I'd like to just add here that I think, first of all, thank everyone for coming and sharing your interest and your ideas with us in this new platform. But I also think that the urgency of the messaging that VIA International has provided through its immersion travel programs, through its intention of always gathering people together to experience something, is so expanded if we can use this platform as well. So I think that the urgency of getting messaging out to people who may not be able to ever visit this location or any of our locations, but be able to have maybe a shifted perspective from hearing something or hearing someone speak to the importance of global connections. So I think it's got a lot of possibilities, and I'm really hopeful that it will expand into our educational programs as well.
Someone asked about, I saw a question about just the shorthand nutshell description. I mean, the tagline we've chosen, people connecting across borders. I think that's the right place to start. If you know people who say, well, I'd like to know more about what's happening in Mexico, or I'd like to know more about what's happening in Tijuana. I wonder about how things are on the ground in Tijuana. How, what's happening in the shelters? How is life over there in the wake of the virus? What's happening with our deported, friends and veterans and community on the Mexican side? Those kinds of questions I hear a lot. Of course, the circles I travel in, you'd expect I would, but I hear them a lot from people who kind of ask them almost rhetorically, like they don't think they'll ever really get a chance to know or to meet firsthand. And I'm hoping that the cafe becomes that. There's a place where people can really find out firsthand, get to talk to somebody or chat with somebody, or learn more about the ongoing work that somebody is doing. A small business sustaining itself by delivering meals to shelters in Tijuana. That's a compelling story, I think. And we're hopeful that, people, again, thinking of the North American audience, people who want to connect across the border or connect across borders further south to Mexico, Guatemala, Costa Rica, where VIA also has work, that'll be the kind of audience we're trying to shoot for. Well, very good. Thank you so much for joining us. Any last questions before we close? Appreciate you going to the site, viacafe.org. Sign up for next Tuesday's Charla with Dr. Andres Smith. Throw something else in your shopping cart and check out. And by all means, please tell your friends, encourage them to visit the site, jump on Facebook and spread the word. Really appreciate your interest. Thanks so much for joining us today. And you'll be hearing more from us. We're going to put out an email blast here in about an hour telling you that the website is live. So you'll hear more from us for sure. Yeah.
I hope you can all see Alexi's on your screen.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I can't. Where is he?
You should put it big.
Can you spotlight him, Joanna?
Yes.
Aida, can you do that?
If you, right by his name, if you click the down arrow, you'll see spotlight.
Oh, there we
Okay.
go.
Got it.
Ah, gracias a ti, Alexa. Nice.
Thank you.
Bilingüe. Me encanta. Gracias, hermano. Gracias, amigo. Thanks so much. Okay, everybody. Great to see you. Thanks for following. Thanks for spreading the word. We'll be in touch. Peace to you. Yeah.
Gracias.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Gracias.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. Gracias.
Well, I'm going to stick around for a few minutes if anybody wants to do a quick follow-up, and not just via staff. Anybody's welcome to hang around. But thanks so much to our board members who joined in. I see Derek from across the country. Derek, you may get the long distance award. Are you? Are you in
Yeah,
Quebec?
let me see. Yep, I'm in Quebec. I'm in Montreal, so not too far from the border, but pretty much a few thousand kilometers away. So yeah.
Great to
Hola,
see-
John.
Hey, Andrea, gracias. Gracias.
Claro. Y tienes un amigo en Canadá, qué suave.
Yeah, yeah.
That's great. I have a friend in Montreal too who's a Haitian filmmaker and actor.
Oh,
Oh,
nice.
wow.
Yeah, so
Hay
I'm
bastantes.
really waiting for this to be over because I'd love to go visit him.
Yeah, yeah.
Hay una
Están muy
comunidad.
activos. Los haitianos están muy activos ahorita porque la mayoría de ellos son trabajadores de primera línea, trabajando en los hospitales y entonces, y de hecho hay uno que ha filmado un video también en la comunidad de los barrios donde viven los haitianos y está bien interesante, pero sí, sería bonito de venir a visitar, absolutamente.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Pues un gusto de verte, Derek. Gracias por acompañarnos.
Thank you guys. I'll put myself on mute. I want to stay 5 minutes more to see you guys because it's so long I don't see you guys.
Abrazos, Derek. Miss you.
Abrazos. You too.
Also,
You guys
John,
too.
maybe sometime we can introduce ourselves. Like we didn't get a chance to see who all was in your group today.
Right. Yeah. We ended up, I think, at right around 60, and I knew it was too
That's a lot of people.
many to introduce. Yeah.
Mhm.
So I know I wanted to, of course, I wanted to do 45 minutes. I think we came pretty close to that. But yeah,
Mhm.
on other occasions, and again, we'll see. You know, Andrea, I know where you were headed with that thinking. You know, I don't know whether this could turn into a true meeting place online. I'm talking a virtual cafe in that regard.
Wouldn't that be fantastic, huh?
It
the,
would.
The alternative Starbucks, like the days in Mexico City where you'd have real conversations with people about real stuff and talking about real books and all of that.
Yeah, and I don't know what would it take. Again, I looked into some of the different technological, you know, platforms, some of the technology platforms that are designed to create that. So again, my first step, as I mentioned, is this idea of hosting it. Somebody who would, you know, be able to say open, you know, hosted 7 a.m. to 11 a.m. You could just drop in, check it out, you know, chat with somebody, see what's happening, see who else is hanging around. But there are other opportunities, I'm sure.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much, John.
Thanks,
and
Andrea.
I'll get some coffee because I'm a big coffee drinker.
Oh, good. Okay. Ándale.
Okay. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Yes.
Yeah. So who else is Guillermo? Gracias por acompañar. Richard Vargas down there. Hey, Richard, how's your grandbaby? I'm not sure if he's hearing me. He may be frozen. Yeah. Oh.
He's sending messages.
Oh, good. Okay, good. Yeah, his grandbaby was in an accident a couple of weeks ago. I hope he's doing okay.
Saludos, John. Can you hear me?
Yeah, yeah. How's your grandbaby?
Bien, bien. Gracias a Dios. She's doing a lot better now.
Oh, good. I'm glad to hear it. Excellent. Yeah. Yeah, un gusto verte. Gracias por acompañar.
Oh, yeah. I wish we were out there and walking those trails.
Right, right. When
It's
I know we've got to get back
beautiful
to
day
that.
out here, man. And everybody's stuck out here.
Right, right.
I got a little gift for you. I actually got it made right here for your next walking trip.
Oh, you got me a walking stick?
I got you a walking
Nice.
stick.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that.
It's via
Excellent.
international.
Oh, aquí suave.
Ah.
¿Lo hiciste tú? Did you make it, Richard?
Nah, I actually had a homeless guy, man. He stands right, se para ahí por donde está Montgomery High School.
Uh-huh.
Y de eso se mantiene el señor. So, I mean, he told me, hey, man, no tengo nada que comer. Buy me a stick. I was like, oh, man. I told him, if you could put VI International on it, you go, I'll pay you double for the stick.
Nice. Well done,
Yeah,
man.
and he was like pretty cool. So I actually paid him. Well, he wanted $10 for it, so I gave him 40 for it. So I just thought
great.
it was cool.
That's so
And
great.
actually, now I was thinking about just giving it to you. You know?
Oh, nice. I
Next
appreciate it.
time you go out there on your walk, you got something to hold on to.
All right. Thanks. I appreciate that. Next time we'll.
¿Qué pasó con la barba?
No, la barba.
Yeah, Richard se le cortó la barba. Mira, Dan. Mira el calvo Dan. Daniel se le cortó el.
No, era pelo, lo tenía acá arriba. Se hizo barba y ya se desapareció, brother. Ya con esta cuarentena ya me quedé completamente pelón y sin barba.
Tienes que sacar una fotografía de antes y después de la pandemia.
Sí. La quité because por lo del coronavirus, my grandkids, they like playing with it, so I just took it all off, you know.
Right.
So I siempre puedo crecer mi barba otra vez.
Yeah.
So I took it off
well,
because of that.
Well, thanks for joining, everyone, and echamos ideas. You know, keep the ideas coming, and thanks for sharing it with friends. And por ahí vamos, huh?
Thanks, VIA team. Thanks, John.
Gracias.
Gracias. Nice to see everybody. Saludos.
Hasta luego.
Chao. Hasta luego.
Adiós, Derek.
Bye, Derek.
Chao, Chaida. Chao.
Bye.
John.
See you later.
Bye, Pastor.
Hasta
Dios te
luego.
bendiga.
Adiós.
Bye, man.
Te veo al ratito, John.
Gracias, Guillermo. Gracias, Aida.
De nada, gracias a ti. Bye.
Yeah, bye-bye.